Before you begin designing anything in Breakdance, there's a very important step that a lot of people miss, especially beginners, when it comes to building. And that place is the global settings, the place where you're going to have your site's foundation built upon and make it easy for you to build websites with amazing speed. If you do this right at the start, you'll make your website building process consistent, easy to work with, and easy to update later on in the future. If you skip this process, you'll make it twice as long in inconsistencies when trying to build out the rest of your site later down the road. Let's get started. Okay, so guys, just to get started, I'm assuming again that you have Breakdance installed or already set up. There are a few ways to get to the global settings and styles here, and we're going to go over a few different options when it comes to how to showcase this information. I'm going to be using the design library today to actually show you guys how to manipulate your global styles. So first way to get there is actually going to your toolbar at the top, hover over Breakdance, and go to Edit Global Styles. This will bring up your current page that you're currently on and your current options here for globals. So we have a few options for globals. We have colors, buttons, typography, your form containers code, other, and this is actually a custom plugin I've added here for shortcut. It's just in testing right now, just to see if we can actually manipulate shortcut with more global styling. But mainly that is one way to get there. This arrow will take you back to your front end when it comes to that area. Another way to get there is going to customize, going to Breakdance Global Styles here, and opening up Breakdance through here too. But my favorite way to go to global styles is actually going to the page itself. So I'm going to hover over Breakdance and see that I have my sample page available. So that I know I'm currently on this page that I'm editing, clicking these three little dots up here and accessing global settings. That way you can not only just manipulate the page that you're currently editing, but also edit those global styles and not have to go back and forth between these two areas. So now we're going to get to the area of the design library. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all these sections here. And we're going to go ahead, click Add, go to our library, and we now see the design sets that are previewed for Breakdance when it comes to that area. We have this website, which means if you've ever developed anything within or built anything within your site currently, this is the place to. So if I click on this website, sample page is the only page I have created on the test site. So that is the page that is going to be enabled for us to take actually any of these elements from. For example, if you make like a service page or you make any pages that are like an about us and have favorite sections of yours that you want to duplicate throughout the rest of your site, you can easily do so from here and just add it to your page at that point. So we're going to go ahead and actually utilize the dental option. So as we see here, we have the full dental homepage that we're currently accessing to see its current styles and what it would look like. Now it does give you a warning here that this design set relies on global settings. It won't look the same unless you import them. So we're going to import these settings because I want to make sure it looks exactly like this current site. I'm going to go ahead and just import the full page at this point. And as you can see, I have global headers and global footers in place here too. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete these just so we don't get confused about what's going on here. So now we have our page added here. We have all the imported settings that came from this design library set, and we have all the colors imported. So now if we go back to global settings, we will see these reflected in our settings here. For example, we can see primary, and they have them named a few different names. This is going to be the big part for you guys is making sure that these are human readable names as you remember what they're used for and their assignments at this point. So right now we're going to start with colors. As you can see here, we have a few options for brand, text, headings, and links. A brand is mainly like that accent you're looking for. For example, for this template, we're looking at, you could either use this primary color as a branding color, and even this accent color could be a branding color too, really depending on what you're selecting here. But for us, we're going to go ahead and use the primary. And this is just for your site to understand what is the overall feel of the design settings. For text, we are going to use this base, and headings we use that primary as well, and links, any links that will appear in the design sets. Make sure your contrast is good when it comes to your colors and making sure that those links pop. For now, we're going to just leave them as the primary as well, just so that it won't really contrast here on this current set here, but we'll get to that later. But as you can see here, you have plenty of colors utilized when it comes to your palette, and this will appear actually on your elements too. So if I go to an element such as the dual heading and I go to secondary, go to typography, where you see the color is set to accent, but we can pull any color from the palette that's currently enabled here, and you can save all those to your palette to be utilized in the future. Now, if we want to change how this looks when it comes to color side, all we have to do is go to, most of these are already set with that primary as the color at this point. So let's go ahead and change that primary color in the palette to just an overall weird green here, just so you can see what this looks like. So pretty much any element that has been assigned the primary palette color here at this point is going to be changed. So that makes your design sets a ton easier to manipulate And it's definitely the first step I suggest you do when it comes to your designs. And you can even create your own style page when it comes to this area. That's pretty much what I do. When I create my sites is just create a whole style page, assign your headings H1, H2, H3. I don't usually go past H3, and it's usually just those 3 headings, the styles that I'm utilizing on my sites. Make sure you set your text sizes as well as your just general color schemes that you'll be utilizing. And once you have all those elements assigned on that style page and assign those colors, it makes it a lot easier to manipulate the rest of those global styles too. As you can see, I clicked on Arials. So now that's at this point, it goes back to the previous version. So if we want to change the background, you would do the same here. Now you can do background has been assigned to that background color, and we can just change it to any color we desire at this point. And a dark theme if you wanted to. But we are going to leave it actually on the global setting of the primary ultralight to leave that alone. So that really colors the colors area. That makes it really easy for you to manipulate at that point. Getting into buttons here. As we see here, we have a primary built. So they have already assigned it as the primary setting here. They don't have it set on the button itself, but any button that is not assigned the style, it's going to pull from the primary area. But if we set primary, it will showcase there. Secondary has a default as well, and a custom has default as well, and text has default as well. These can all be manipulated, but I highly recommend setting a primary and secondary button up just so you understand what is being changed here. Now, going to primary settings, we can see we can manipulate size. They have it set to custom right now, so 16 px on the padding on top and bottom, and 85 px on the left and right. We can actually change it to say, let's just do large. Now you see it manipulates every button that currently is set to primary. Let's go ahead and do, I don't like small either. So we're just going to make this, there you go, 40 by 40 on the left and right side at this point. Now I also want to set the secondary, and to show you guys what this looks like, we'll just go ahead and make it default. We'll just make it like a medium size at this point. But let's go ahead and pull this background. I'm going to leave the typography alone for now. We'll go ahead and round it and leave effects and icons at them. So now if we manipulate this button to secondary, we now see exactly what this style is going to be. So if you ever have an option where you just want to set your primary button here, your secondary button here, and just to make this look good, I'm going to show you how to make this layout a little cleaner. I've added a div for both buttons in there, set this to row, set the gap to 25. As you can see, we have a pretty big button size difference here. At this point, vertical line center there, but that's just for your reference to see if possible when it comes to this area. As you can see here, now they're side by side. Make sure that you are changing your responsiveness settings here, because there are times where this is going to flip your design. Right now it doesn't, but if it ever does, just go to your div here and set vertical to phone portrait so it matches the style. It fits properly. We're going to get rid of that and leave that be. So now we can see what the secondary looks like and make the adjustments here. You can set outline, which will just outline to the color that you currently have set on here. There's no color set, so we're going to go ahead and try to use the darker area with a background of, say, white. And as you can see now, that color becomes that outline for the button, and the background is what that see-through kind of color is in the style now. So now you have a good idea that you can make outline buttons. So manipulating the colors for the secondary, you can see that we want to manipulate, say, the hover states here, because that right now I have it set to like this, where if I hover over, the text goes white and the background grows teal. So as you can see here, I've already set those hover settings where any hover style with the background goes into this kind of tealish looking color. We could change that to say, okay, maybe we wanted to make it white instead. So leave that alone. You can now see on the hover option, it turns it white, but now we have that white text in the way. So for typography, we would want to set that to say maybe base instead. And now you see the base color comes in for that text color for that hover option. And that's where you're going to be editing pretty much most of your text styles when it comes to that area and when you're dealing with outlines. But we can turn off outlines here too, and just set this back to say that teal. And now we see that effort goes back there too. Now, when it comes to buttons, again, I suggest the primary and secondary, and you can also add presets. So for example, we have preset 1, and you can manipulate your styles here, such as your typography, your outline, and square and round and custom kind of style. So let's say we make a black base button with some white text. And again, don't forget that you have these global styles to add from your global palette and utilize those to the fullest extent, because that will make it easier for your future edits too. Because if you just change the colors options up here, that will affect anything that you have set at that. It would just make your editing process a lot easier. So now if we go here to the primary, secondary, custom area, primary, secondary, custom area, we can go to custom and go to preset, and we now see preset 1. And now you can see the changes I made on that preset 1. And then you can manipulate these styles here to actually showcase what that preset will look like in case you want to use a third option button for, say, maybe a certain call to action section or anything that is featured in that area. So that covers mostly the buttons area. Now let's get into typography. This is a pretty important step when it comes to your global styling. Pick a good font. For right now, we're just going to use just a random one at this point. Enter and Roboto. So for right now, we're just going to use a different heading font and body font, Enter and Roboto. And pretty much from there, we can set a base size. And pretty much the base size is just going to affect your overall, anything that doesn't have an assigned value is going to borrow from this base size. Same with the ratio of that. Now let's go to advanced. And we have our heading options here that have already been set by the template. Again, it imported from that design library options we have. So all of their headings right now are set to a preset of all headings that you can manipulate here. So a few options you have are to use the advanced options to set all your headings to a certain criteria. And you can see that they've already set your presets here. So H1 headings already has a preset. H2 most likely has a preset. And so instead of going to the heading settings and manipulating those, you would actually go instead to the preset section. And now we can see we have body text, all headings, H1s, H2s, H3s, accent headings, all the kind of headings and text that they've already built out for this design library. Now let's go to H1, where you see they have set the font size to 44. Again, I don't recommend using PX for your text. You're going to want to use REM for that responsiveness. So for example, we do 42 REM. That's way too large. Let's do 2.7. Now you see that it is set to 2.7, and this will be borrowing the responsive values of the parent. And then now you can see it will fit properly here too. Always make sure to double check your preview when it comes to setting your different sizes, just to make sure that on the desktop matches the tablet and matches the phone size, so you don't break your design. But back to the presets here. We now have it set to 2.7. Their weight's 900. Let's go ahead and set it to 500. As you can see here, anything that has been set to those presets or those values is now appearing there. They have some advanced options here. You have the ability to manage your letter spacing, which is going to spread out the letters. Word spacing, so spacing between words. You can set your styles, for example, italics. We have some decoration options here, such as underlining, overlining, cross, and no decoration in case you have a link you want to make sure that you don't have a decoration underlining. I even set the offset for it, a color, and even a style, solid, double, dotted, dash, wavy lines, and even a thickness. So these are all decoration options for you. The transporting here is in a previous video we went over. Again, you can change to all capitals, all lowercase, all capital one, first letter capitalized, and none for the transform. And then we have the options for wrap, no wrap, balance, and pretty. That comes with those advanced options. Now for those H1s, again, I had set to heading font for Enter and Roboto, but it didn't affect any of these headings because of the fact they have these presets set. So for example, if I go into here and actually set the font family to Enter, it now alters those presets that have been set. So as you can see, it is now Enter, which is the heading font that I assigned in the first place. But that's pretty much what presets are really great for, is making sure you have your styles already utilized, and then you just assign them to your elements at this point to make sure that they are borrowing from your presets, and you can just manipulate it all in one place instead of having to go to each and every single element of your design. Now, moving on to forms. You also have the same abilities for your form fields. Let's see if they have a form available for us. They do not, so we're going to make one. So let's go ahead and add this barb section here. And let's go ahead and just add a form element right to center here. As we see here, these are not the styles bar for the element. And they currently have a few set for their fields. So the fields are currently these options here. You have your labels and you have your submit button. So they have a background of white set to that form builder. Let's go ahead and set it to that accent color. As you can see, that's what it changes to. The base color and primary transparent as well as primary. But we're going to keep it on the white. That's what looks good. You have the option to manipulate your borders, and this border feature is actually something you can manipulate on a ton of elements in your design palette options. Mainly what you'll see here is this option that showcases here this design. It shows me, since it's highlighted in this blue, that all borders have been assigned these settings. So all borders are assignable with the accent color, and it's a solid style. So if I switch to dash, you can see it's now manipulated to dash. But you can go very specific here. Let's say we wipe the styling here. We can actually just set it to where the left border is changed. And let's do that and dotted. So let's try to manipulate a little more here. Let's say over exaggerate so you actually see this. So 12 px width of that left border, you can see is ridge, groove, double, hit. So it's not completely gone in that border. But you get the gist of it when it comes to these border settings. Let's go ahead and click this option here again. Set this here, and I'm just going to go ahead and set it to 1px accent color and a solid, like they had it before. There you go. And again, those border sections are something you can find on a ton of elements. They do have it set to where focus, the border will change color at that point, which means if someone clicks on this element, it changes to these colors here. This gives you a little feel of some manipulation at that point for your elements, add some user experience there. And you also have a few options for your typography, like your labels, your sub-labels and values. These are your labels here. Now the sub-values they have set to text of 16 px, and they have their values set to 16 px too. So your value, for example, like typing in here, like your name. So if we manipulate this value, let's say we just go to custom here, they have pop-ins. You can see if I had manipulated that preset, it would alter the size. We can go right back to the preset instead, and now things are back to normal. Links can also be manipulated here, and links have their own settings like font family, font size, weight, line heights, colors. As you can see here, you can manipulate the submit button as well too, left, center, full width, all options from the global side too. And then you have your options and containers. When we're setting up different pages and building pages, we want to utilize sections for each of those. Now, it really does depend on you and how long or lengthy you want to make a section. But I usually, if I'm starting a new topic or new heading area, usually I'm making a new section as well, just to keep it consistent with the technical side of the site. But that choice is completely up to you. Right now, it has a column gap of 60x, and the sections are set to a container width of 1080. So if you manipulate it to 900, you can see that now they're a little smaller full container width. They have a vertical padding of 100, so we set to 50. Now we're even tighter than that. Horizontal padding of 0, we set to 1000. You can see now it looks tall and stretched. So these are all settings you can manipulate. I honestly don't manipulate the section container global settings too often, because mostly the Breakdance defaults actually work. I don't really see a reason to manipulate these settings that often at this point. And you also have the option for code. So this is usually where I suggest you're going to add your CSS and your scripts when it comes to your Breakdance facing pages. My suggestion when it comes to when you're building your sites is use your posts in Gutenberg, but with a single post template. And we'll get into templates in a future video, but we're with a single post template. So that way it is pulling onto a Breakdance design, but you're utilizing Gutenberg for this area. And then your Breakdance facing pages, the ones on the front end here, this is where your code is going to pull in from. It's going to pull in for your style sheet and your JavaScript. Now you can still use your customize option in WordPress where you could add CSS styles in there too, but just to keep things consistent, I recommend it in the Breakdance builder itself. But very easy to add a style sheet and then add your CSS here. Same with your scripts and JavaScript as well too. We have some other options like transitions. So if you want to set like a global setting for any transition you build onto the site, and we'll also get into animations and transitions in another video. For now, we're just keeping to global settings. Now I see I kind of that's the design with those the container settings I manipulated. So I'm gonna go back a bit, and as you can see, now we're back to normal at this point for when we actually manipulate things. Now make sure to save your progress, because if you try to exit out here, so you try to exit the front end, you will get a warning saying leaving will not save your changes. So make sure you save. And then you can actually hit X here, and you are no longer in your global settings at that point. So for example, say we manipulated our sub-labels to text of 14, and we try to leave global settings, it will also warn you as well. Make sure you save your options here before leaving. So make sure you save, and then you're back to the page you were just at this point. And again, pretty much this is the first process I'm doing with building my sites, so I can make sure that my design process goes a lot quicker. And then I don't have to, if I make a mistake somewhere or I want to change something somewhere, I do it from one menu instead of having to go to each element and change every single setting at the point. That will save you, especially if you have hundreds of pages you have to change. This just makes it all easy in one go.
So let's recap. This all should be done before you even start your project. You should know what typography you're using, what colors you're aiming to use, as well as what presets you might want to utilize in the rest of your site too.
Doing this first step makes the rest of this a lot easier.
Don't forget your colors. Make sure you set 5 defaults with easy to read names so you remember what they're utilized for. Build your brand. And at the end of the day, do not hard code any of your color values to any elements, because it's the whole point of global settings in the first place. On your typography side, make sure you set a base size as well as your responsiveness size. Then build your presets from there. Buttons are essential, so make sure you have a primary and secondary already built out and selected, and make sure you alter those hover styles as well to make sure you actually have that animation set.
All in all, this whole purpose is to define once, reference everywhere, and update all in one place. That is the key to professional development and utilizing global settings to their full impact.
Breakdance makes this easily accessible to everyone, even beginners, without writing a single piece of code. Properly right from the start, your client requests in the future are going to be a snap of a finger.
Don't forget, global settings is the foundation. Everything Breakdance builds sits on top of it.
If this video was useful for you,
Please subscribe and hit that bell. Straightforward breakdance content for beginners, no flow. I'm BD Boogie, and let's boogie.